31. Proverbs chapter 31, verses 30 and 31. I'll be reading from the King James. And it reads, "Favor is deceitful and beauty is vain. But a woman that feareth the Lord, she shall be praised. Give her of the fruit of her hands, and let her own works praise her in the gates." You may be seated. For God knew that this chapter needed to be put in the book of Proverbs, or the book of wisdom. The book of Proverbs was written in 700 BC. The majority of it was written by Solomon, the son of David. But there are some few proverbs in the text that are not written by Solomon, that some may identify Solomon as the writer. Now, chapter 31 is unique, for it covers the home of a king. It covers his childhood upbringing. It lets us know that the king was not too far from where we are. The writer pens it with all the wisdom of God. And I want to talk to you about briefly what makes mom, mom. What makes mom, mom? For I could tell you that it's a love of the scriptures that make mom, mom. I could tell you it's because it's her good apple pie that makes mom, mom. Or maybe that delicious macaroni and cheese that made mom, mom. What makes mom, mom? The writer of this proverb identifies himself as King Lemuel. Again, some identify him as Solomon, the son of David, king of Israel. And through historical retrospect, he gives us a snapshot into the characteristics of a marvelous mom. His words are weighty and powerful. They're full of weight and full of power. They draw us in. For who don't like to talk about their mother? Now, some people don't, because we have to just put this out, and this is where the rubber meets the road. Not all mothers are godly. Not all mothers are doing the things that mothers should be doing. Not all mothers are training up their child in the way they should go. Not all mothers are praying for their children. Not all mothers are there when their children need them. We put this out here right now because if the truth be known, the truth has to be told. But this woman, this wife, is a mother and a mom. His words are weighty and powerful. And they're full of all the joys and warmth of mom. In these verses that we're going to look at, what the writer does is he lets us know that a mother is more than a maid.
All right, sir.
For some of us, children really think our mothers are our maids. He lets us know that mother is more than a chef. Oh, but she's a good one.
Amen.
He lets us know that mother is more than a math teacher. She's more than a doctor. Because you know a lot of times your mother doctor you up when you fail. A lot of times your mother put the Band-Aid right where the Band-Aid needed to be. Even though you didn't see the scar, she still put a Band-Aid on the make-believe scar.
Amen, sir.
And mother can perform magic. For she has a way of kissing away the pain. But he lets us know she's more than that. You know what he lets us know? He lets us know she's a godly woman. That's what Solomon said. She is a godly woman. She's a godly wife. She's a godly mother. I wrote this so we can get it in these verses again. He tells us a mother can hold your hand for a short time, but have your heart forever. You know, when you grow up, children, it's okay when mom holds your hand when you're a little lad, little toddler. But as you get 5 and 6, I don't need. She can only hold your hand for a short time, but she'll have your heart forever. The great evangelist Billy Sunday said, a mother's love is unselfish. It has no limits this side of heaven. The great President Abraham Lincoln said, he is not a poor man who has a godly mother. Yeah, I'm rich. I mean, I don't have millions, but you know I'm rich because I had a godly mother. What makes a mother mom? What makes a mom a mom? Let me tell you what makes a mom a mom. It's her fear of the Lord. Right. That's what the verse said. It says in verse 30, he says, chin, the word is chin, and it says, that is to be vain. This favor, this chin is the Greek word is deceitful. Beauty is vain, but a woman that fears the Lord, she shall be praised. What makes a mom a mom? It's her fear of the Lord. It's the fear of the Lord. Fear is the beginning of wisdom. That's the fear of the Lord in Proverbs 1:7. Don't you know that fear of the Lord is the foundation of all excellence? For out of it flows her goodness. Out of it flows her gracefulness. Out of it flows her generosity. Out of it flows her godlikeness. It's her fear of the Lord. It's the foundation of all excellence. He says in Proverbs 25:6, out of her fear flows her gracefulness. Look at Proverbs 31, 25 and 6. The very first thing he says, her gracefulness is, she's graceful in verse 26, her speech. Day in and day out, when that child is being torn down by some bullies, day in and day out, when people are telling that child he can never amount to anything, she tells him you can be anything that God has called you to be. She tells him you can overcome. She tells her, don't matter what they say, you just listen to what mommy says, because I'm telling you, I see something in you, and God has already talked to me, and I talked to God about you, and God will be able to do some great things to you. You don't worry about what they say. You just keep hearing and listen to what mom is saying. That's what verse 26 says. She's graceful in her speech. But verse 25 says she's graceful in her strength. Strength and what honor are her clothing. How many times did your mother cry, but yet she was still strong? I remember the first day of school when we was just getting ready to go to school, and your mother for the first time is going to let you out of her sight, and she cried, but oh, she's so strong. And I remember when my mom had to come down to the school and said, listen, I don't know what y'all doing, but you better leave my boy alone. Oh, she was crying, but she was oh so strong. Strength and honor are her clothing. She wears it well. I've seen when my mother had to work hard because she didn't have a lot of things, but she was still strong and gave us what she gave us because God was able to give her hands to work, a heart to care. And you know what she did? She made $1 out of 25 cents every time. Every time we was hungry, she always came up with a meal. It might not be the meal that I wanted, but it still was a meal.
Amen. Amen. Amen, sir.
strength, and honor. She fears the Lord. It's the foundation of excellence. Not only is the foundation of excellence, but you know what it is? It is the pathway of life. Proverbs 19:23 says, you will find life there. Mothers have found life there. They have entrusted their children to God and to his wisdom. It is the pathway of life. I don't know about you, but my mother passed away at 66 years, but she still lived. She lived for God. She understood who God was. She knew who God was. She loved God, and she built her life upon God, and she knew it was her pathway to everything. And so she lived. And I'm not sad today because my mother's not here. I'm glad because my mother taught me how to live, how to be somebody, how to overcome some things. She overcame the heartache. She overcame the pain. She overcame the disappointment. She taught me how to live. And the truth be told, your mother taught you how to live. So live then. Quit hanging your heads down low. She taught you how to be better than that. She taught you how to overcome all that. She taught you that the fear of the Lord is the pathway of the life, and the fear of the Lord is the source of all strength. All strength. Proverbs 14:26. All strength. Matter of fact, the proverb writer said it's like a fortress. It's the source of all strength. You know why she was able to do what she do? Because she had the fear of the Lord in her heart, and he made her strong. She wasn't a superwoman, but she acted like the superwoman. She did things like a superwoman. Why? Because the Lord was the source of her strength. You know why you're strong today? Because you saw your mother being strong. You know why you're strong today? Because you saw your mother keep on keeping on. You know why you're able to do what you do today? Because you've seen something in your mother. Her fear of the Lord, it made her strong. I'm telling you. I saw my mother on the bed going through cancer. But she was still strong. She was so strong that she said, listen, in her own words, it's time for me to go. But I'm not leaving y'all alone. Because the God that I fear is the God that you fear. And the God that I fear can take me from here to there. Then surely he can take you through life. And my mother passed off the scene, but she wasn't afraid, but she wasn't scared. She was still strong, and she gave us strength. You know how long it took me to cry after my mother passed away? Or I cried when I preached the sermon, but I really cried months and months later. And my wife can tell you, I didn't cry right away. Why? Because my mother made me strong. She didn't say I couldn't cry, but at the time I wouldn't cry because I remember her being strong. Strong, mind you, to overcome anything. My mother could leap walls in a single bounce. My mother could make police officers bow down. My mother could tell preachers that you don't know what you're talking about. My boy too will be a preacher because I talked to the Lord about him. My mother was strong. Your mother's strong. And that's why you're overcome today. I don't care what they say you can't be, children. Remember what your mother said you could be. You could be anything. You can overcome anything. If you had wings, you could just fly away because your mother told you that in the Lord you can be strong. And so she feared the Lord. It's the foundation of all excellencies. It's the pathway of life. It's the source of all strength, but it's the source of all true wisdom. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge and wisdom. It's the source, Proverbs 1:7, but also Proverbs 9:10. But if you want to go to a greater verse, you can go to James chapter 3, verse 17. There, James talks about the wisdom that is from above. He says, it's first pure, then peaceable, gentle, easy to be entreated, full of mercy and good fruits, without partiality and without hypocrisy. James says, listen, this wisdom that is from above is the true wisdom, because he contrasts that wisdom with the wisdom that's found in verses 13 through 16. He says, that's demonic, that's earthly, that's sensual. But true wisdom comes from God. True wisdom comes from the one who is the what? Is the epitome, I'm sorry. Almost Reverend Hall not here to save me. The epitome of wisdom. Y'all was waiting to text me, weren't y'all? You remember when you preached on Mother's Day, that word is not epitome, it's epitome. Well, I know what it means. But my mother told me, don't mind them laughing at you, baby. You go on and say epitome. We know it's epitome. And my mother told me, it doesn't matter how I pronounce the words as long as I'm speaking. Because she's going to teach me how by and by, right? She's going to show me the right way by and by. Isn't that just like a mother? When things go bad, she has a way of making it look so good. Isn't it just like a mother? When people turn their backs on you, she says, it's okay, baby, because mama is here. When things go, when the rubber meets the road, it's mom that brings you through. It's mom that prays for you. It's mom that prays to God for you. It's mom that does all that she needs to do for you. When things goes bad, it's mom. I love dads, but we ain't talking about dads. We're talking about moms. Moms is the heart of the home. Mom is the hands of the home. Mom is the hope of a home. And when things goes bad, she gives her heart. And when things go bad, she gives her hands. And when things go bad, she gives us hope that tomorrow will be better than yesterday. Solomon says, the fear of the Lord is beginning of wisdom. So she fears the Lord, right? And she shall be praised. It's her fear of the Lord. Number two, it's her faithfulness to the Lord. It's her faithfulness to the Lord. She believes his promises. You know what God has told a godly mother, this mom? You know what God has told her? That if you call upon me, I will hear. How many times your mother been calling to God for you? How many times she been wearing her knee pads out for you when you've been going astray, when you wouldn't listen to her because you were 15 and 16 and 18 and 20 and you thought you knew more than everybody else in the world knew? How many times your mother cried out to God for you, crying on her knees, tears running down her face? And Psalm 4:1 says, hear me when I call, O God of my righteousness. He promises us that when we call, he would hear. Have you ever heard your mother crying out for you? Lord, save him. Lord, turn his heart around. Lord, help him. Lord, I don't know what she's doing. She don't appear to be my daughter right now. Lord, who is she? Lord, let me know before I kill her. Lord, help me. Lord, I'm crying out to you. Lord, I need you. Lord, restrain me. Lord, contain me. Lord, give me patience to deal with this child. A lot of times, mothers were crying out for you. And God promised to hear her. She believed in the promises of God. I don't know about you, but I still believe in the promises of God. That God hasn't left me. Even though my mother's gone, my God is still on the throne. And he hasn't left me alone. And therefore, my mother told me, you got to be faithful to the Lord and believe his promises. Because God is not a man that he should lie. Not a son of man that he should repent. Had he said he shall not do it. Had he spoken he shall not make it good. Numbers 23:19. I don't know about you, but God is faithful. And this mother is faithful to the Lord. She believes his promises. That he would hear her when she called. Not only that, but he would hear her when she cries. I met my brother. Lord bless his soul. He's going to be with the Lord. And I met my brother, but he just couldn't keep a license. He did something to make sure the license always got took. And he crying to me, they won't let me drive the car. I said, you don't have a license. Nobody can let you drive the car without a license. But my mother was crying out for him. Because my brother used to just take a little drink too much. And they take his license, or he'd get in trouble. And he always just took a little. Y'all like y'all even took a little drink too much. I'm not saying anything bad about my brother, because I love my brother. I'm just saying that some of y'all sitting in here acting like y'all never took a little drink too much. Some of y'all acting like you never had any sin in your life. Some of you acting like you never done anything wrong in your life. But I know what? When my brother was going through what he was going through, my mother was crying out, and God heard her, because Psalm 34:6 says, this poor man cried, and the Lord heard him and delivered him out of all his troubles. And And when Doris Ford cried out, God heard and broke my brother around. And at the same time, he broke me around. And look at me now. I'm not drinking a little bit. I'm preaching just a little bit. He promised to hear you when you cry. And somebody have been crying out for a long time. How long, oh Lord? When is the change going to come? When are you going to do something in their life? And God said, just a little while longer. Remember how long it took me to make you into who you are? Remember how long it took me to make you into a godly mother? Well, now I'm working on your son, Brother Fitton. I'm working on your son, Sister Fitton. Just wait on it a little while longer. Keep crying out to me. I promise to hear you when you cry, and then I'll deliver him out of all his troubles. God has delivered me. God has delivered some children out of all their troubles because the mother not only called to God, but cried out to God.
Amen.
She's faithful to God because she believes his promises, but she believes in his power. She believes that God has the power to change minds. She believes that God has the power to change destinies. Somebody said that you was in school and that you would have never amount to nothing. But mother got on her knees and she prayed, and those prayers were heard by God, and God changed the destiny. And now you are who you are because somebody sent prayers up to you. And when prayers go up, blessings come down. She cried out. She called on God because she believed in the power of God. This power that overcome a hard head. I had a hard head, but the power of God made a soft behind. And my mother was crying out to God, don't hurt him too bad, just make him a preacher. If I could talk to her now and say, that's the worst prayer you should have. Well, why you didn't pray to make me a president or something? You want a preacher? And now I said, it's the best prayer you could ever have. For Lord, you put me in the blessed place I could ever be. So I can share God's word with God's people. A preacher, I'll preach on preacher because that's what God has called me to be. My mother prayed for something. Whatever she prayed for, God gave it to her. Now she said, like Spurgeon said, his mother said, I asked God to make you a Christian, but not a Baptist preacher. He said, Mom, in his old funny way, Mom, I think that God has done exceedingly abundantly above all you can ask and think. Because I'm a Baptist preacher. You get it? Baptist preachers are the best preachers on this side of heaven. That's what Spurgeon was saying. Now, I just happen to be a Baptist preacher, and my mom didn't pray for me to be a Baptist preacher, but I am. She's faithful to the Lord. She believes his promises. She believes his power. Power. All power. God can do it. God can turn it around. Ask your mother how you got where you got here. Ask your mother why you're able to do what you do. God has turned it around. God has intervened in his power. Some of us was in jail and somebody prayed and God opened up some doors for you. Some of us was down and out in sickness and mother prayed and God recovered you. Some of us lost our job, but mother been praying for years and years and God opened up some doors for you because he has the power to go and do what nobody else can do, and she believed in the power of God. Do you mothers believe in the power of God? Do you mothers believe in the power of God? You ought to be praying. You ought to be praying to God, believing in his power, believing in his promises. Know that God can help you and your children overcome anything. If you're a single mom, don't give up. Pray. Don't give up. Fight through prayer. Don't give up. Fight your way through. Pray your way through. Believe in the power of God and watch God come through on your behalf. She fears the Lord. She's faithful to the Lord. But you know what makes a mom a mom? This verse said, verse 31, she's favored by the Lord. She's favored by the Lord. Now the psalm writer said in Psalm 5:12 that favor covers her or surrounds her. I know you're thinking about your mom, you're reminiscing, and you saw how blessed she was. Because when I was growing up, they didn't have but nickel jobs. That's what my old pastor starts calling them, nickel jobs. And that means that you have to work hard. And when you work hard, you say, man, I sure thought I had more than a nickel. But somehow, God's favor surrounded her.
Come on, sir.
She always wore a nice dress and a nice hat. Now, my mom didn't only have a nice dress. She didn't only have the nice hat. She had the shoes.
All right.
She had the purse.
All right.
She had the pearls. She had the earrings.
Come on, sir.
She was favored by the Lord. You know why she is favored by the Lord? Because she feared the Lord, because she was faithful to the Lord. And if you tell the truth, your mother too was favored by the Lord, because sometimes back in the day when a lot of you was growing up, the mother didn't work, the dad worked, and somebody was a sharecropper, and somebody worked in the fields. But guess what? God still made a way so that your mother could have what she had.
Right.
God still made a way that through your mother, you can have what you have. Kids had new shoes. My mother says, okay, baby, I'll take the sewing thread and sew the shoes up on the side, and it'll be just like brand new. But if you hold on to God that we serve, he's going to favor us after a while. Then after a while, I'm going to be able to get you some new things. I believe that my mother was favored by God.
Wow. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
It surrounded her. God's favor not only surrounded her, but God's favor sustained her. When I'm talking about God's grace, favor, I'm talking about grace. That's all I'm talking about. It sustained her. In the lonely nights, when she didn't know where you were, if you was coming back, God's favor, God's grace sustained her. God said, hold on. I'm with him. I know exactly where he's at. I got a hold of him because you've been praying for him. God's favor sustained her. Let her know that it'll be all right in the morning. I know a lot of times your mother cried all night long. Where's my baby girl? What is she up to? Where's my baby boy? What is he going through? Crying all night long. And it was the favor of God that sustained her and let her know that weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning. See, a godly mother, she knows about weeping at nighttime, but she also knows that joy is going to come in the morning. A godly mother knows that the joy of the Lord is her salvation. A godly mother knows that, guess what? It doesn't matter what they say. God will turn it around and turn it around and turn it around, because God's favor sustains her. Have you ever felt the favor of God? Somebody said favor isn't fair. If favor isn't fair, why all of us have favor? All believers have favor, don't we? You don't have no more favor than I have. I thought my mother had more favor than I have, but God gives me favor because he gave her favor. God said, because your mother been praying, I'm going to take some of the favor that I was giving her and give it to you. You know I'm not dead. It was the favor of God that sustained my mother, that surrounded my mother, is also sustaining me and surrounding me. You know I'm not on drugs. It was the favor of God. He kept me, because I could have been on drugs. I could have been dead, sleeping in my grave. I could have been anywhere, but it was the favor of God. When we went to Desert Storm, it was God's favor that surrounded me. My mother prayed for that favor. She said, baby boy, I haven't heard from you in 30 days. My stomach was in knots, but thank you for calling me. And I said, Mom, I've been so busy. They're trying to kill us. And she said, I've been praying for you that God's favor will surround you, that God's favor will sustain you. My mother prayed for me. And guess what? A year later, God brought me back from the brink, brought me back from Desert Storm, set my feet in America. I said, Mom, thank you for praying for a wretched son like me. Now, I know this sermon is going to make sense to y'all, but it makes sense to me. You know why? Because I know my mother is a mom. My mother's not here today, but she's still a mom. Deacon Neal, your mother was a mom. She may not be here today, but 96 years she prayed for you. She prayed for you and about you. And look what God has done. He's made you a deacon at Grace First Baptist Church. Now, you didn't want to be a deacon, but God heard her prayers, and now his favor surrounds you and sustains you. When he took her, how do you think you're still here today? He's sustaining you. He's keeping you. He's watching over you. He's protecting you. It's God's grace I'm talking about. I didn't want to pick nobody out. But I'm talking about Deacon Lanier. What about you? You know what's sustaining you? You know what's sustaining you? It's the grace of God. You're not here because you look good. You're not here because you have a lot of money. You're here because somebody prayed for you. You're here because somebody had you on their mind. You're here because somebody thought more about you than you thought about yourself. In those days, we didn't think much about ourselves because we took ourselves to some places we shouldn't have been and did some things we shouldn't have done. But guess what? God did, because he heard my mother. God said, I'm going to go get that boy. I'm going to go get that girl. I'm going to make them into somebody. Aren't you glad today that your mom feared the Lord? Aren't you glad today that your mom was faithful to the Lord? Aren't you glad today that your mom was favored by the Lord? Favor surrounds you. Favor sustains you. Your mother taught you something now. When times get hard and times get tough, the tough gets going. But Pastor, how do we get going? Well, one night, and I'm going to close and leave y'all alone, my mother was down on her knees because times was getting hard. And I can still see it like yesterday. I didn't hear all the words, but I saw the stance. She got down on her knees. When times get hard and times get tough, the tough gets going. And like the old preacher used to say, she cried out, Father, I stretch my hands to thee. No other help. My help cometh from thee. Lord God, if you can do anything, Lord, if you could hear me, Lord, if you can answer me, Lord, do something about my boy. Lord, I don't care what you do to him, just don't hurt him too bad. Lord, if you can turn his mind around. Lord, if you can turn his life around. Lord, I'm crying out to you. Lord, the pain is overwhelming. Lord, it's just too much for me. Lord, it's too hard for me. Lord, you said that you would be a sustainer. Lord, you said that you would surround me with favor. Now, Lord, give a little bit of my favor to my son. And I seen my mother cry for me. She cried for me and she cried for me. And she said, Lord, if you can help Alan, make him into somebody. Change his heart. For Lord, he's my boy. I gave my life to him. Lord, I gave my heart. Lord, I gave my hands. Lord, I gave my hope. If you could do anything, help my boy, Lord. I'm reaching out to you and I'm crying out to you, Lord. You said you would always be there. You said you would never leave him. Lord, he's in a mess right now, but Lord, I'm crying out to you. Because I know that you can do anything but fail. Lord, I know that you will never leave him nor forsake him. Lord, I believe in your promises. Lord, I believe in your power. And one day, God reached down and pulled me out of the muck and mire and set my feet on solid ground. And that's why I'm here today. Because my mother prayed for me and 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 prayed for me. And God, in his infinite power, heard my mother and rearranged me, and now I have a better destiny. God can do it for you. Some mother, you keep crying out. You keep crying out. Wear your knees out, and the God that we serve, the God that we serve, will reach down and get your child and make them into somebody. Somebody God has called them to be. Somebody God wants them to be. But you must be born again. You must be born again. If you're going to give your life to Jesus Christ today, then give it to Christ today on Mother's Day. Say, Mom, you taught me to fear the Lord. You taught me to be faithful to the Lord. You taught me that if I'm fearful and faithful, the Lord will favor me. Well, Lord, here I am. Just as I am.